Hey class, this week we're going to go over the lesson 2 aggregation lesson. Let's go ahead and jump right in. To get started, you go to you open up Tableau and you can go to this data source page and connect to a file. But the way I've created the file, it's a Tableau data extract. So it's easier if you just go to, if you click on this button at the top, and that'll take you to the worksheet. And similarly, you can go back just by clicking that Tableau icon up there. And then go into File, Open. It's the easiest way to open this. So then you find your extract, which I've got right here. So it's a Tableau data extract. It's already changed the data so that it's fast. It's in the Tableau data engine. So that's a columnar-oriented database type, and so that makes it really fast to operate on, to use in your operations. So once you connect to that, click on sheet 1 and we'll get started with this. First thing to note in this assignment is we're looking at the number of records field. So if you see all these variables that have italics, they're generated by Tableau. So you have measure names up in the dimensions, then you have latitude, longitude, number of records, and measure values. If you see out in front of the icon for any variable, if you see a little equal sign, that means it's a calculated field. So number of records is actually a calculated field, and you can edit it by right-clicking on it and going into edit. And you'll see the formula for it is just 1. So what does that mean? Let's look at the actual data set. So if you go up to the top here, there's the view data icon. Click on that. And the way this view data is organized is by the same order from dimensions alphabetically and then measures alphabetically. So you have BAS and design style. And then as you go over, you'll see number of records actually falls in alphabetically. So each row is just given a value of 1, so that when you sum them up, you have the number of records for whatever dimension you're looking at. So let's double click that and add it to the view so we can see that there's 290,000 records. And then if you add in any dimension, you can see how many records for that dimension, for that value in the dimension there are. Okay, so that is identical to account distinct, or not account distinct, just account of anything. So if you just added, if you right click and drag any variable, it'll give you a little dialog box so you can choose how you want to add it to the visualization. So if you just say count of jurisdiction, it's the same thing as number of records. So that's Tableau's way of using of implementing the count, is just to use the number of records variable. Let's go into filtering, the next part. If you add any of these variables to the filter shelf, you'll get a dialog box. And what it's going to say is, how do you want to filter on number of records? Do you want all values? Do you want to use some type of aggregation? So if you use all values, let's go ahead and look at it. For number of records, because we only have a value of 1 in every row, you can't filter anything but 1. It's 1 to 1, right? So you can't, if you change this to like 2 to 3, it's going to filter out everything, right? Because everything has a value of 1. So we'll cancel that and we'll put it back in there as a sum. And now we see that because we have jurisdiction on the view, let me add it to the okay, because we have jurisdiction on the view, it's going to sum up number of records per jurisdiction and give us the min value, which is 32 in Durham, to 123, which is in Raleigh. So if you hit OK, but say we want to get rid of Andrew and Durham, so we say at least. We say give us at least 1,000. Okay, so that gets rid of them. Then if you right-click on that, you can show the filter, and that brings it into your view. And then you can drag, and you see the bars will appear and disappear based on where you drag it to. So let's change that back to 1,000, and then let's add zip code to the visualization. So now we see that you've added zip code, and it's still 1,000 number of records. So if a zip code doesn't have if a zip code has less than 1,000 records, it'll be deleted. So you see that these are not being so basically what we were removing the jurisdictions because they had less than 1,000 rows, but now that we added zip code, it's removing those zip codes with less than 1,000, which is a stricter criteria, really. So more, you're having less zip codes. So we can change that to 100, so we have more zip codes left in there. And then let's look at the sorting now. If you click on any of these fields up here and then click the sort, you can see that this is the sort descending, this is sort ascending, and it adds the little sort to the physical zip code. So within each of these, it's going to sort in descending order of the measure that you have on there, which is number of records. So we can click on jurisdiction and sort that as well. Now, what's interesting about this is that you have, you're expecting it to be descending all the way down, but because 27587 is in multiple jurisdictions, it's adding all of these together. So that's really what I wanted to show you with that. So the sort order is based on that one variable. If you right-click any of the variables and click sort, you'll see that what it did was it took whatever was in your view and it sorted it manually. So that's not really the best case, because if you have new data that comes in, it won't work. But if you go to field here and it'll say sort by descending field number of records, then it's going to take, no matter what's in the view, it's going to sort by that number of records descending. So if we change this filter here, that would change our sort order. If we made it 0, it would be out of sort. So the point I wanted to make with this is that when you sort by the field descending, it's only aggregating it at that one dimension. So for this jurisdiction, it's going to say, give me the sum of number of records for each jurisdiction and give it in descending order, but it's not going to have anything to do with that physical zip code. Okay. Default aggregation types. So click on a new screen here. If you look down here, year built is being used as a measure. And if you double click it, what's it doing? Well, it's summing up all the years built. So does that make any sense? No. 577 million, doesn't make any sense at all. So what we want to do is right click that and change the default aggregation type. So go to default properties, aggregation, and change it as average. So now we can double click it again, and we see that our average year built is 1990, but it's still not being used as we want it to be used. So for year built, it's better, even though it's a numeric field, it's better to be used as a dimension. So the way to change that is just to click and drag it up into the dimensions field, and you'll notice it goes from being a green number sign to a blue number sign. That means it's discrete. So now if we double click it, instead of averaging that, it's going to give us a list of all the different years. Okay. So now if we just double click number of records, we can see how many were built by how many houses were built by year, and now it's created this by default on the mark shelf as a text value. So if you drop down here, you can change it. Oh, and that's not what I wanted to do. If you click and drag it up to the column shelf, then you can see, okay, now it's a better visualization. To flip the view so that it goes vertically instead of horizontally, just click this swap icon up here. And then one final thing we can do is we can make it so the scroll bar disappears. And that's a drop down right up here. It says normal. You can fit the width, fit the height, or the entire view. Let's just go ahead and click the entire view. And now it's kind of compacted everything into this one view. I'm going to reach in the recording limit, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and we'll finish up in the next video.